Welcome to the Sedona Soul Sisters show, down-to-earth discussions on spirituality, metaphysics, paranormal, and healing topics. The Sedona Soul Sisters are the most trusted psychic mediums in Sedona, Arizona. We are Rosalind Reynolds, myself, Ivory Lanou, Melissa Brace, and Terri-ann Russell. We have offices in Sedona, Arizona, where we see clients from all over the world. Today's topic is alien races. If you're watching or listening to the show later and the show brings up questions for you, or you want to tell us about an experience, email us. That email address is in the show description, and we'll be happy to address that for you later. So we have two ladies with us here in our Sedona Soul Sisters group who a lot of their work focuses on aliens and UFOs and starseed, and that's Melissa Brace and Terri-ann Russell. And so how would you like to start this? Do you want to talk about just sort of in general about what alien races is all about?
Well, first, I'd like to say, like, even before it started, I thought, like when I went to Roz and I was used to seeing spirits, but now I'm like, now seeing all these different types of beings and everything. So that was sort of shocking to me. So I think for a lot of people, it's very unnerving. It can be unnerving in the beginning. So I just want to say that it's not something that you go out looking for, or you're like, hey, let me go do this. But it was always like, for me, a feeling of knowing there was more out there than what was just here on Earth. And I just, as a child, I remember looking out at the stars every night and thinking there's got to be more than just this. So that way back it starts. But as I've learned, there's so many universes, so many alien races, just like we have nationalities and people from different countries. There's just as many, alien races out there.
I'm distracted because there's a cute kitty walking behind Melissa's head. A visitor.
These are my extraterrestrial children. I agree with Terri-ann. We were on a UFO tour last night, with the goggles, and so each tour we get to explore and learn what each person knows or believes, and we expand every time. And we were talking about the many, like, sort of beyond comprehension, beyond our minds, races, and I don't even know if that's the right word. Like, the alien races are, so vast that we could not comprehend how many, like, the names or backgrounds of all of them. But we were talking about that last night. So as far as we know, there are at least 500 to 600 that visit or are around. And I also agree that it's not as scary as it sounds, as perhaps maybe some of the movies in our lives have really been scary. And it's not really about that so much. It's more about the connection with the universe. So perhaps the extraterrestrials help us connect all together in that unity consciousness.
Up through my 30s, all of the experiences I had were scary and frightening and traumatizing. But lately, like later in my adult life, everything that's happening is just full of wonderment and beauty and high frequency, and that there's just something incredible happening. And even if I don't know what it means or exactly what is happening, you see something you can't name. And I was thinking about what you just said, Melissa, last night. I was thinking, I'm not going to ask these ladies how many alien races there are, because I'm sure we have no idea. I think our universe is vast, and then there's so many universes out there, and universes we don't even know exist yet. How can we know? That's an unknowable. Like, how many grains of sand are there on the beach?
Exactly.
Figure that out. Mathematicians are going to say we can figure that out mathematically, but this is a little different.
And I think there's another factor to that there. And if we can comprehend, or maybe I'm talking to myself, if I can comprehend that some of these beings are multi-dimensional, and perhaps they do not need heavy clothes, shoes, toothbrushes, and they're a little bit beyond that consciousness that even expands it more. So how do we understand if we're getting the correct, amounts or of, types of beings, or how can we understand it all? I think this part is it's kind of like a Star Trek where we go beyond what man has known before, and we are learning. And the connections, like Terri-ann was saying earlier, like it's a little bit startling and uncomfortable to think, wow, an extraterrestrial could talk to me, or be down the street. That's a little uncomfortable, right? However, if they're in that higher energy, which is what we're experiencing, like you said, Ivory, mostly peaceful light and expanded in knowledge and wisdom, and just a little bit higher, perhaps in intelligence and beyond than we are, and helping us learn how to connect. I just think this journey is going to be really exciting as we go beyond what any man has known before.
Don't you
Um,
think, go ahead.
I think it's fun and
Don't you
very
think,
peaceful.
don't you think one of the problems, the limitations that we put on this whole idea of alien races and UFOs is that we're always thinking, well, how did they get here? We can't get there except in multiple light years. What if they don't require a ship? What if they don't require any kind of conveyance to go where they want to go? What if they can, as light beings, just go? And we can't really conceive of that. Our scientists don't have much to compare that to. So they're trying to logic their way through something they don't know much about, because it is, like Melissa said, it's far above where we are on every level.
And that's why I think when we do the spiritual hypnosis, that we're opening up that part of consciousness that can be accessed. And so those memories are stored in there. And when either of us has done spiritual hypnosis, and the things that come through, and, clear pictures where people have described to me what this planet looked like and the beings that were there. So the more that we can access that consciousness and study it, because it's like new territory that we're coming into now. And I think it's my belief, at least, that they walk among us, that they're here with us, that we are part of them. We just didn't become this like experimental species thrown onto Earth and plop, here you are, and now start the Earth, right, with these humans. So that's my belief anyway.
So why do you think that these races are coming to us?
I think it's part of our evolution to raise our consciousness. We're in a huge time right now where humanity is shifting, and they call it, ascension and the golden dimension and all these things. And so, but I think that piece of us is here within us. And at this time in humanity, it's being unlocked so that we can access those pieces, our connection.
I agree. I think as we keep shifting and growing and changing, all of humanity, and rising up in our consciousness, I think our connection with, we can call it God, source, truth, creator, the universe, is coming back online. And that is also how we can maybe expand in our ideas about the extraterrestrial connections that we have and understandings in the future.
Don't you think a lot of it is curiosity on their part, like to see where things stand here? How are we doing? How are we evolving?
I think they've always been here. And, we could go back in history and do a little ancient alien moment here and go back in history and look onto the Egyptian hieroglyphs and see the tall beings that seem to be a little bit extraterrestrially, or the gods and goddesses in our myths and our stories and our parables throughout time. I think that there's a key to that, and that they don't, it's also my belief that there's not any, they would not encroach in our spaces. They would not be creepy on purpose. But I believe they've always been here. And I think we're just kind of starting to think maybe they have, or at least close, and watching our consciousness and seeing how we're coming along. So, like, what if possibly that they look at us like we're just brand newborns, little babies, and we don't quite know, we don't have car keys, and we don't know how to do the laundry yet, and we have not finished school yet, for sure. And they are maybe kind of checking on our progress and processes and what each person is good at. Just like parents go, look, one of my kids is great in arts and artistic stuff, and the other one is like numbers. Like, I don't know how. So I think maybe the extraterrestrial beings, the Galactic Federation, or whatever words we're using, I think they check on us and go, oh, that kid, what a handful. They're really good at this and very good at this, energy stuff. And that one, great at football and kindness and compassion. So that's what it, to me, in a really basic terms, kind of feels like that they have been here, just kind of stepping back and watching like parents to see how we're coming along, or to nudge us in the past that, like, just for instance, in case I was trying to, be an accountant or something, and I'm really terrible at that. So they're probably trying to nudge me a little bit, like, look the other way. And I think it's the kind of guidance and connection that we have with the celestial beings, and part of their purposes.
It makes sense. And I think too that they won't come to you. Maybe they can't even feel you as a potential person to communicate with until your frequency reaches a certain point. Not to say that people who've raised their frequency are better than other people. It's just different. It's a different frequency that I think makes it easier for them, kind of like matching them closer to where they are, very similar to communicating with spirit or communicating with angels, that you have to raise your frequency to be able to do that. I think the same thing is true for alien races. If somebody wants them to visit, if they want them to communicate with them, interact, I think that's, here we go, right back again to the core of raising your frequency. Have either of you ever thought about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, Roz was really the first person I met that really drove that home to me, the importance of keeping our frequency to a certain level. And before that, I didn't really understand much about that. And then the matching of your frequency, the higher frequency you are, the more that it's easier to manifest, the more that you can meet people that are more aligned to who you are on that level. And so Roz was really the one who drove that home to me.
It's a big deal. So let's talk about some alien races. What are the most well-known?
Well, there are a few, like a handful that most of us that are at least enjoy the extraterrestrial topics have heard. And so some of them would be like Pleiadians or Andromedans, Lyrans or Lyrans, Sirians, like Sirius from the star system over here, Sirius or Sirius B, and Arcturians are very popular. The Arcturians are known to have the largest ship and healing frequencies in our atmosphere. And the Pleiadians, for instance, are known for helping us weave consciousness in much higher, compassionate, loving, fun, beautiful, colorful ways. So there are different personalities for the different races. And Terri-ann connects in really cool ways, especially, because we've got to do the spiritual hypnosis together. But she just connects with like certain energies, like in really cool ways, like, oh yes, like, and how receives downloads and understanding like easy. And I've seen her connect with the Lyrans or Lyrans, and I think it's Arcturian. Is that one of your biggest
Palladian?
Pleiadian.
I think it's a lot like our nationalities. We have Irish and German and Italian, and we have pieces of us. So I think also we have pieces of us that are different nationalities, if you will, of starseed energy or alien energy. So like there's certain things called double star seeds. People first believed you could only be one thing. You're Arcturian and that's it. And then they went to a more broader way of thinking where, all right, you can have different pieces of you, because it makes sense. If you're this soul who's incarnated over thousands and thousands of times, why wouldn't it make sense that it was all created and you started somewhere and you have these, lives that you've lived as other nationalities or other races of alien type energy. So
Is it Arcturians? You were talking about them having this big ship. Are they the ones who have the medical ship in space?
Yes.
Oh,
I
I'm
believe
very
many
familiar
other-
with that.
Many other races. I just think it's funny to call them that, races. Groups, races. They have different types of medical ships. So yes, and they're willing. Like I've had clients that came in and said, "Oh, by the way, some extraterrestrials came and picked me up, and I couldn't move, and then I was healed from like 30 years of that suffering from the car wreck or from the things like that." And they're not kidding. Like, these are not people that are hysterical or wildly strange or iffy in any way, shape, or form. And I'm like, okay. But the Arcturians, the big medical healing, so I mean mental, emotional, spiritual, physical healing ship is enormous, is called the Athena.
Thank
And
you
so
for bringing that up.
they're the most well-known and the biggest one. And that's their main purpose.
Somebody popped into our business years ago looking to rent a room, and Roz mentioned I was at the worst part of my back pain, and she mentioned that, and this woman's like, "Oh, you need to ask to be taken to Athena. You need to be taken." And I couldn't remember who the ship was associated, and I'm like, I never heard of such a thing, but I was in such pain. I'm like, I would have tried just about anything. And I did. And as I told Roz, like, it took my sciatic pain away immediately. And they've come to me 3 other times and worked on my back. And each time I have a big improvement. So I never thought that was a real thing. I don't know. I just don't think about things like that too much, but it happened to me. And I remember being on that ship.
yeah, I think the first time I asked to be taken somewhere, I remember pulling myself back. Like, all of a sudden it scared me and I was like, no, I can't go. And it happened 2 or 3 times within one night, but I was like, okay, like I had to psych myself up. Okay, now I'm ready. Nope, I can't go. So I would try to go and then not go until I really let go of everything, and not had that fear that surround, because it's a big, surrendering to what that is, but knowing also. And I think there's so many. Roz, do you remember when I first met you? There was a group of people that came in around the same time as me. Do you remember what type of race, if you will, that they were?
I don't.
They had the long blonde hair, very pale skin.
Very
Do you know
tall.
Melissa? Very tall,
Yeah.
like Nordic almost,
The
like.
Nordic ones is what I call them. I believe there are probably further explanations, but I call them the tall white Nordic race is what I call them.
So when
Isn't that the ones that were at our Whole Foods recently in Sedona in broad daylight?
Yes.
So when that occurred, prior to them coming, they're one of the galactic leaders or mentors or whoever that was with them came first and arrived in the waiting room. And I was not here by myself. Ed was here. And I said, whoa, do you see that? Can you see him? And he was nearly as tall as the ceiling. And the only thing Ed could feel his presence, but he could not see him. And that was pretty startling to me because I wasn't expecting, it was just like a bolt of light and he was there. And then very shortly thereafter, The person that guided, that he was guiding to come here, arrived, and it was really interesting.
Did that being say anything, Roz?
Never said a word. Just
Interesting.
I felt myself enveloped.
Hmm.
And I sort of thought it was because of the kind of healing work that I do sometimes. Because I can feel the presence of other entities around me when I'm doing that work. I'm sure you guys experience this. I know, Ivory, you have the angels coming in. This last few years, it's not just the angels that come in when I'm doing different things, mostly distance work. There's a lot of different presentations. So I think, what we're seeing is we're all capable of seeing them, feeling them. I know Terri-ann and Melissa hear them and are capable of, talking with them. I don't feel like I ever talk with them other than going, okay, hi, what do you want? What
There's
do you need me to do?
there's something I've seen in my office 3 times at our current location that I wondered if either one of you could tell me what it is. So I will be in with a client who's a very high frequency client. So the frequency between the two of us and the angels is like, whew. And then I'll see this about a 3-foot tall crystalline being. And I did see it in Terri-ann's office once as well. I don't remember which one of you was in the office at the time. Might have been you, Melissa. It was down at the floor level. It was more like a ball of it, but it's white and crystalline, and it shifts and it looks a lot like clear crystals, very high frequency. Do you know what that is?
Not fully, but you like you said, when you're in that high frequency, you can tell. We know with any types of energies, we can tell if they're lower energies. And so I believe that some of the crystalline energies are helping us lift up in consciousness. I don't know what exact being that would be, but to help us kind of align and activate in our crystalline bodies as well. And I think each, like we were talking about different races, each race has a different purpose. Like the Arcturians are very well known for the healing, and there's a lot of wisdom they share with us. But I think you're it's almost like effervescent, iridescent, crystalline visitors. We're kind of helping you align with and bring in more downloads for you and your client.
I guess because the clients never see it. It's so interesting. Like it stays for a while. They never see it.
I have that too, where they don't see it, and I'm just like, hey, that's weird. And it just is really like, and you just kind of go like, and Ross was saying earlier, that's so funny because if other people aren't visually seeing it, that's okay. But we can feel the energies rise up. And if we're talking about consciousness and frequencies, maybe it doesn't, that's the other part of the multi-dimensional part of this, where it doesn't need to be so physical and like written down or, have a physical sign to it. But we can tell when they are pure light and they are not trying to be invasive or anything like that, just sort of like hold out a hand, just sort of like, when you're mad, you've fallen off your bike and you can't ride it. And your parents are going, look, you can do this. You can do this. You could be anything. You could be the president. You could be anything you want in this world. But they're standing over here holding their hand out to you when you're mad and crying on the ground. I think it's similar to that. So, not that you were mad and crying with your client. I mean, it was just that it's to me, it's just sort of like that, where they're just going, here you go. Like, let me reach my hand out to you. And perhaps you can benefit by this pure light energy that I am bringing today. Like we just saw that maybe you're the one that we're supposed to talk to today. Even if we don't see them, we can kind of feel it inside. Was that what it was like at all?
Honestly, I didn't feel anything like in my heart chakra or anything. It just felt extremely high frequency. I knew it was something of the light, but it didn't communicate anything to my knowledge, but it was very cool to see it. And that's three times in my office and once in the office each of you have been in. So I don't know what that is.
I think like spirits, they hang around sometimes, whether they're raising our frequency or they're there for the client's frequency. But I think, I mean, there's a huge, my business goes through flows, and a lot of times, a lot of people come in wanting star seed stuff, or they want this galactic journey where we do a hypno and I take them to their ship, and go see what type of race, if you will, they are. And so I think a lot of times that frequency, because we are all different, but we're also connected in our offices, that, they could be there for anybody. It's like, hey, I'm just coming in and hanging out. You guys needed a little extra lift today, or, I came here for the client today. So I think just like spirit, that high frequency energy can also come in at any time.
It can. I
think
just
we have
never see a
a
spirit
portal.
look like that, but it was very interesting. What about Pleiadians? I know we're going to be doing deep dives into specific alien types and who they are, where they're from, what they're known for. We're going to be doing that, but we should probably talk a little bit about the main ones today. What about Pleiadians? What are they known for?
High frequency, a lot of healing, a lot of that very much caring, trying to help us raise the frequency of the planet. So working with us. And then I believe too that a lot of Pleiadians walk among us. Those are one of the races, I think, that they are here. They have like accentuated features, I would say. So like larger eyes maybe, or like, I don't have it, but elongated necks. And so sometimes you can look at them and just know it. And just by looking at them, there's something about them. Or the eyes, like a lot of people tell me the color of my eyes, it's just like that striking color of their eyes. So it could be something simple, but Pleiadians are really known for helping us to raise our frequency.
I agree. And I also think that Prince, the musician, is a fantastic Pleiadian example. And I mean, think about it. Like, he captured us. Like, we had to look at him. We had to listen. And he was kind of super weird. I mean, kind of colorful. But and I could say that about any of us. But he, to me, is very classic, helping us, like Terri-ann was saying, raise our consciousness. And it's almost like have a different perspective of the conditions that we live in, our minds and our beliefs, and just rise up just a little bit with a little bit of color, and help us expand. So I think the Pleiadians, in a beauty connection between humans kind of ways as well. So, and colorful and kind of fun. The Pleiadians are more fun than some of the more serious races. I at least that's my perspective.
I think we have I'm convinced we have some type of a portal or an entrance in our office, where our office location is. And so I feel like, it's something about the energy of that is an open invitation to drop in for any high frequency beings who have the intention of goodness, and our light bearers, etc. Because there's a lot of interesting things that go on in that office.
I have the same thing in my bedroom, like between my bed and the bay window. There's a place where beings come in. They always come in there. That's where I see them. That's where they enter. It's very interesting that you say that. Like, it's got to be right there. I know I've had several of my spiritual teachers say over time, you are the portal. Like, you are the portal. That's why everywhere you go, you've got a portal. And so you get the four of us together in one office. Of course, we've got a portal.
I was
So
saying,
there's never a dull moment, right?
Right.
we discussed that last night on the UFO tour, because part of the UFO tour, not only are we gazing at the stars and watching UFOs move in the sky, but we are also like learning from each other, like wow, what's going on here? How can we learn? And so a question I get asked often is, why do people see more ships, light ships, UFOs, different anomalies in Sedona than in other places? And I said, it's happening, and people, other places are known for seeing UFOs and different things. But I believe, and most of us locals kind of have an agreement on this, where it's sort of a portal, chakra, earth chakra, and it's almost like there's a peace treaty here. So all beings can come in and like spend the night or gas up or, whatever, and interact, and then go back out to doing whatever levels of the things that they're doing out there to help us. And it's just like, it's sort of like a way station.
I'm hearing this. I'm like, oh, Sedona is an international, like a intergalactic UN safe place.
Yes.
And so could you imagine if you actually could see, all the energy, all the beings, all the races that were all gathered together? I mean, it must be like hilarious. I think it would be like so amazing to just see that all together once and what was going on behind the scenes, right?
Kind of like the Men in Black's head office where all the people are incoming and heading back out. Yeah, I would love that. I would love that. I think.
In a way, I think Sedona is the offices, and it's just because it's just so funny to me to think, and it would be very startling, but it's so funny for me to think like, oh, there could be a 2-foot tall red person and that has, wings and antenna that we might need to have lunch with to discuss the next part of this consciousness and awareness. But I think it's kind of happening on different levels of us as we clear away some old, heavier, lower dense earth frequencies. I think we become more connected with them. And it's just funny in my mind. I've never seen that, but it's funny in my mind, like, oh, I wonder what they really do look like, or if they, because they feel good and they're very wise, and the connections, and it makes me laugh. Many years of going up in the ships, probably like 10, 12 years ago. I know it was before 2012. I used to work with a guide that was green and had kind of a bigger head. And this is not bothersome to me, but he was teaching us energy work and how to cleanse and clear the lower energies and step up and step up and step up. And he was from Sirius, so I would call him Terri-ann. And I go, what's your name? Because I don't think we can always understand, like their language possibly could be a little bit more extended than our human languages. And he goes, you can call me Gordon. And I thought, that's so ridiculous. Like, how? I think I'm going crazy. I need to take a nap or start drinking or something, because this is unbelievable. But I worked with him for many years, and he was a guide to help me understand how to help other people in cleansing, clearing our generational patterning, or kind of like healing in a different way than I've ever known. And he just is a little bit green tinted and very tall and very wise and kind and good.
That's so funny. I've had so many times I'm doing, say it's meet your angelic guides, and sometimes the guides are more of a alien species than they are anything else. And I'll ask them what their name is, and there'll be a silence, and they'll say, just call me Tick or something like that. And you just know that, like, whatever their name is, your tongue can't handle it. You can't even hear it, let alone pronounce it. And I remember back in '84 when everything, I had a massive spiritual awakening, and there was beings coming in, and they would always come in, and there was a clicking sound, and there would be like, it sounded like finger snaps, like rapid finger snaps. And oh, it gives me chills to hear it now, to even do that. But that would always herald them coming in. And I really think that was their language. I think I was hearing their language. How do you pronounce that? So it makes sense. There's going to be plenty of things. Gordon's so much easier than whatever. unimaginable, unpronounceable name you may really have. Could
They
be
are
gurgling
patient.
sounds.
They are
Could be.
patient with us.
What was another one of those major races that you mentioned? We talked about, oh, the Syrians.
Uh-huh.
So what are they
Syrian
known for?
Andromedans, Orion, people from Orions.
Lion,
Pick one of those. And
Lemurian.
let's hear a little bit about them.
You know, they're also vastly different. The Lyrian are more like cat-like, they're more, I think, correct me, Melissa, they're more telepathic. They use a lot of their telepathy to communicate. And just, again, striking features. I know why I'm always attracted to cats. It's because I have this connection with them too. It's like, I always feel like there's each group, like there's something about them that, you know, is always appealing to me. But I love that. It reminds me almost like of the movie Cats, right? I mean, and you can see a lot of them, like Melissa was talking earlier, when we go back to our mythology and our Greek mythology and the Egyptians and all of those, you know, birds. They had a lot of, oh, what are they called? Like the avians, those are bird-like alien races. And so the Lyrians are the cat-like. And so there's a lot of, oh, what's that other one? It almost looks like the mantis. So there's tons and tons. There's so many. But the Lyrian, I like the Lyrians also. They do a lot of that telepathic communication.
Isn't that the ones you told me that I was seeing when I had those visions of the pyramid that had the big carved stone lion head in the side of it?
Yes.
So they've got pyramids on their planet.
Mhm.
Interesting.
I think they understand and in particular the Lyrans or Lyrians. Who knows if I'm saying it correctly? I just talk to them sometimes. I don't know if I say it, pronounce it correctly. But years ago, someone in a spiritual hypnosis, wanted to talk to their cosmic galactic family, and I just happened to be able to perceive them, and I was floored because the royalty. Some of the Lyrians are those just white lion, just stunning. It's just, and you can feel it. They are light. And you can look up in Egyptian history of some of the gods and goddesses are lion heads people, and they are very magical. They bring a lot of peace and bring us a lot of wisdom and understanding in a really cool way. So that's, I don't know. I'm just fascinated. And it feels royal. They all feel royal to me. Like I almost want to sit up straight and be respectful.
Do you want to
But not
do
in
a
a
low
creepy way.
curtsy?
Right. Yes, I do. I want to.
Call
I'm
them your
honored.
majesty?
Yes, yes. And they don't mean to. They don't want us to worship them or adore them or anything like that. Just they want us to feel equal. Just perhaps like we're the little kids in school and maybe don't know as much yet. They're helping. So
They're
Like you're the
mentoring us.
freshman and they're the senior.
Yes, yes. We actually might be in grade school and they're in college. I'm really thinking that's probably more like it.
Yeah.
There's another couple of species. I can't remember if I asked both of you ladies before, but one of them that came in was these four males that were about 8 feet tall, 3 feet wide, and they looked like they were carved out of stone, and they had some kind of intricate headpiece all carved out of stone and the long pointed beard, and they had their arms folded like this. And then the one closest to me opened his hands and there was this glowing green stone. He was like offering it to me. I've only seen them once, but it really sticks in my head. It really made an effect. Do you have any idea who that is? That an alien race, or is that more of a council, a high level council?
I remember when you first met them, maybe, or at least spoke of it or expressed it. And I have seen some similar ones. They remind me almost like of the Easter Island statues. And then there's a couple of them throughout many years for me that they look like chess pieces, and they're kind of just, and they are kind of serious, but they're not meaning to be scary. They're just peculiar. and they are very wise. And I don't know what words to call them, like how to define them, except for me that I believe that a lot of them are on the new earth energy, that highest frequency, higher frequency that we are coming into. It's like they're part of the ancestors or the
Elder.
yeah, elders and ancient truth that we kind of haven't been able to perceive for many thousands of years, humanity. So they've just been kind of waiting for us to wake up and being very wise. And they, to me, they almost hold some of the laws of the universe together for us. They hold that. It's like hold the posts up for us, if that makes sense.
It does. And then what about this? I know Ed Roz's boyfriend Ed calls them the blue sphere beings. They come in and they'll be right over the center of my bed. They're about 5-6 feet in diameter, and the outside edge is royal blue. They're translucent, and on the inside is like this opalescent nucleus moving, and it's really beautiful. Super high frequency. They just hover over the bed and they'll stay for 30-40 minutes. What are they?
Are they part of the blue ray race? The spears that are part of, so blue rays are actual beings, but what I'm getting is they're part of the blue ray race. So they're coming in that sphere form for you. But I think that's so cool that they're translucent like that and you're able to see like within them. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. It's just like a small part of the center that's moving and shifting and opalescent, like literally the colors of an opal moving within it. But the whole outside of like this bubble is a sheer, it's royal blue, but it's, you can see through it. I don't know how else to, translucent royal blue. Does that make any sense at all? But they're so high frequency. But I know when I first mentioned it, and Ed's like, oh my gosh, that's the blue sphere beings. And I'm like, I looked it up, but I thought, I'm not sure that that's what it is. But, it's so hard to know when you're not an expert in these things. I mean, I've had a lot of experiences with unexplained races and astral beings and et cetera, but that doesn't make me an expert on what they are. Where they come from. It does not. It only makes me a lucky recipient. That's all.
And sometimes we don't know. We're just here learning and navigating our way too. And I don't think we're gonna know everything. The point of coming here is to learn again. So once we're in spirit form or we become more crystalline, I think we'll learn more. And when we're ready to learn more. So I think, you're not supposed to be an expert in everything.
It's impossible. I've given up on that. Many, many, many years ago did I realize you cannot be an expert in very many things. You can know a lot about a lot, a little about a lot about some, and a whole lot about one or two or maybe three things. And after that, you're overreaching and breaking your brain. I'm so excited because I know these ladies, Terri-ann and Melissa, have agreed that it would be really fun to start doing once a month. We're going to do that deep dive into one specific alien race or whatever you want to call it, type of alien, and really dive into it. So, when you see that coming up, if that's a race that you think you might have a connection to, you are interested in, that's going to be a great show to tune in and really learn a whole lot more about it and ask your questions. You can come live on the show and ask them, raise your hand, we'll unmute you and you can ask live on the show. You can put it in the chat room if you're shy, or ask us later. Again, if you're just hearing this part of it, ask us later by email and we'll make sure the ladies get the message and get back to you with an answer. So I'm always happy to help you out. You've been watching the Sedona Soul Sisters show. If you'd like more information about us or our services, please visit our website, sedonasoulsisters.com. Tune in next week when the topic is solar flares and how it affects sensitive people. I think that you could be quite surprised by this. In the meantime, we hope you have an enlightening week.